Ready? Hello, everyone. I'm happy to welcome you to the 10th and the last workshop within the framework of the program Collage Dialogue and International Exchange of Ideas. This program is supported by the European Union through the House of Europe Grant Initiative. Today's session is moderated by the project manager Irina Kudrashova, and simultaneous translation is provided by Lola Macedon. My name is Annete Sagal. I am the initiator of this project, and I'm delighted to introduce our expert, Julia Volonts. Julia Volonts is a licensed and board-certified art therapist, educator, and the founder of Art Therapy Lab. Her work bridges the therapeutic and the artistic, drawing from mindfulness, minimalism, and the subtle, tactile rituals like stitching and layering. Julia, I give the microphone to you.
Thank you, Annette. Hello, everyone. So coming into the space, for those that have just joined or haven't written in the chat yet, Annette said if you could just write in where you're logging in from, that would be wonderful. And then just a word, if you don't mind, anybody who's already written in the chat, if you could just write a word to describe what's a word that you're bringing into the space today? It can be anything, it can be anything. But just how are you feeling coming into the space today?
Summer storms is such a lovely word. It gives me a lot of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone can sort of read and look in the chat of where people are logging in from, but I'll just briefly mention. So we have logging in from Slovenia, we have Riga from Latvia, from Ukraine, we have someone from Jakarta here, Berlin, Washington, USA. We have Virginia in the USA. We have words of summer storms, fulfilled, grateful, curious, sentimental, relaxed. Hello from Spain. Oh, I was just in Malaga about a couple months ago. Witnessing, we have someone from Oregon, from the US. I'm feeling anxious. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. From Mexico. Okay, wonderful. So I love having this at the beginning of any workshop I do virtually, because I think that it really encompasses the work that I've been doing as an art therapist over the last 5 years, and actually how I ended up connecting with Annette and the Kiev collage community. And so I feel like the fact that we can all be from different places but connect in this space through art, through expression, and through connection, and really have that created. So what I'd like to say is we have the simultaneous translation today. So lucky for everyone, I will be speaking slowly. I do not normally speak very slowly, so I will be today. And I will also kind of be giving some mindful pauses just to catch up on anything that I might have gone over, to give Irina time to, be able to translate it as well as express herself in the way that she sees fit. So it's really lovely to see some familiar names across the board. And for those that are joining for the first time, Annette did introduce you to me, but I also have now a presentation that I will share that will, go over a little more about me and my background, art therapy, my practice, and then we'll move into the workshop of art making and the concept of minimalism and mindfulness in collage. Okay, so with without further ado, I will share my screen. Okay. All right, and I hope everyone can see. Okay. So the title of my workshop today is Threading the Self. And then minimalism and mindfulness in collage. And so I want to also just thank Kiev Collage School and Annete for inviting me to be a facilitator in this project. It is an honor, and it is an honor for me to be here today, not only, facilitating a workshop, but also getting to share a little bit of the behind the scenes of how my collage process works, not only, from an artist perspective, but from the artist therapist perspective. And I hope that by the end, you can take away maybe using collage in maybe a little bit of a different way than you normally do, learning the act of sewing as an act of focus, but also as an act of calm, and just being able to sit with yourself. You have nowhere else to be right now for the next 2 hours, but right here. So, all right. So just going into the outline for today, there's 5 parts. So we'll start with just a welcome. Then I'll do a little introduction, which will speak about art therapy and just the concept of minimalism in collage from my perspective. Talk a little bit about my art practice, and then we'll get into the art making experiential with then a closing reflection. Okay. So before we even go into the workshop, I want to just allow some space for material collection if you don't have all the materials you're hoping to in front of you. Just to kind of pause and think, because normally when I introduce the art directive, people will go and get materials, but this time I wanted to sort of, give the forewarning of things that you can use and collect. So here I have, thread and needle, the sewing supplies. If you do not feel safe or comfortable using that, you can take some yarn or thread or even just fabric, anything tactile that might feel good. You can also maybe, if you want to use leaves or natural objects that can feel like something you might thread with, that's okay too. Collage material that can be, different papers, it can be magazines, old books, pre-cut images, whatever, you have. So I'm just going to give a moment for people to collect, and then obviously scissors and an adhesive or glue. So I'll just give a moment if anybody's feeling inspired or doesn't have something that maybe they're now thinking they might want to get. Okay, give like 1 more minute. Okay, so I hope maybe you've grabbed some materials, and even if you haven't, and you're still listening to me, trying to find some things, just keep in mind, if you have an idea of what you want to use, you can go get it when the art making starts. All right, so moving on. I like to put this collage that I have here as just breathe. I feel like in the state of the world right now, in the state of, our communities, on a micro level, and, thinking about community and connection on a larger level. I think a lot of times for me, I just forget to breathe. Obviously, it's a natural thing that we all do. We have to in order to stay alive. But really being mindful with the breath is something that I know I can struggle with. And it's interesting because I will ask clients, to be present and mindful, but what's really important is for me to as well. And so today, just entering the workshop, whatever your circumstance, wherever you are in your day, for me, it's the early afternoon. Some of you, it's evening. Some of you, it might be the middle of the night. I don't know what time it is in Jakarta right now. So, but with that said, I'd like everyone to just take a pause and kind of ground yourself wherever you're sitting. I'd like you to, if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, to just like close your eyes. And we'll just take a deep breath together through our nose and out through our mouth. And I'd like you to continue to do that, breathing deeply into your nose and out through your mouth. Feeling your chest rise and fall with every breath. The breath can be a way for us to ground in the present. So right now, again, you have nowhere else to be but right here for the next 2 hours. So I'd like you, as you breathe in, to breathe in some compassion and creativity, and to breathe out any maybe anxieties, uncertainties, anything that's feeling heavy for you, coming into the space today. And allow it to just, take a pause for this workshop. And continuing to breathe, I want to remind that, the breath is always with us. And it's a way for us to regulate ourselves when our body feels disconnected or unsafe. And so just being in this space today, listening to my voice, being with each other, let's make this a safe space to create art, to breathe, take a pause, learn, and again, just be. So I invite you to take another big breath and exhale. And when you're ready, return to the space. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Whew. So moving on, Annete shared a bit of my background, so I'm not going to go into any detail. But just to state, I'm a licensed and board certified art therapist. I did my training in New York City at the School of Visual Arts. So I'm licensed in the state of New York and board certified in the US. However, I've worked internationally, and I am very interested in interdisciplinary collaboration and cross-cultural collaboration. Additionally, more recently, in the last year, I have become a professor within a master's art therapy program located in Baltimore, Maryland, in the US. In the last few years, I founded Art Therapy Lab, which is a virtual space that we now do in-person residencies and events and things like that. But it's really a space to connect an international community through art, to connect therapists, to teach about, raise awareness about art therapy, and to sort of evolve as a place where art can meet mental health, healing, research, and again, community globally. I am also someone currently more full-time based in the US, but I am also based in Europe. I go there every summer. I'm a dual citizen of not the US and also Latvia, where that's my heritage and my origin, family origin. And then going into some research interests for me as also an artist and a therapist is I'm interested in international art therapy practices, interdisciplinary collaboration, community-based art therapy practices. So how can we bring art therapy experiences into maybe more non-traditional, non-clinical spaces to increase social impact, connection, as well as accessibility. And then tying into all of this, I'm very interested in the ethical considerations. As a therapist, working in communities, more particularly working in communities abroad. And then lastly, getting to talk about my art practice today. My art practice has been centered on the medium of collage and found images throughout my entire experience of being an artist. So that's something I look forward to talking a little more and sharing with you today. Okay. So many of you might know already what art therapy is, so I'm not going to go into it in detail. But for those that don't, I like to say everyone has a relationship with art and an idea of therapy. But like, what is art therapy? So when we put the two words together, I get so many different definitions from, is it therapy for artists? Are you gonna work with just children? Will you analyze my art after looking? And so, there's all these different ideas of what, art and therapy together would look like. And so that's a whole nother presentation, so I won't go into it, but I will say, simply defined, art therapy is an approach to psychotherapy that integrates creative arts with talk therapy to promote well-being. So I like to include, I know psychotherapy might sound a little bit intimidating when we talk about community work or doing, therapeutic art workshops and things like that, but really the difference here is being an art therapist, we're trained in how and what might come up, how art materials are used in a therapy space. And we are also trained in what type of things, feelings, emotions, trauma might come up in the art when we're working with someone. So it's really a space and a specific type of mental health training that we can then bring to communities and hold space for that might be different than someone without art therapy training that is still doing work in communities. So it's really understanding that boundary there and what that looks like. So I see some. Okay, sorry, I was just checking the chat in case. Okay, so moving on, I just put this quote in from Kathy Moon, who's prominent in the art therapy world. And she writes, art therapy has the potential to transcend language and cultural barriers, providing a unique medium for individuals from diverse backgrounds to express and process their emotions and experiences. I thought this was fitting to put in today because you are all coming into this workshop to learn, to engage, to create and connect, and we're all from different places. So the beautiful thing about art, not just art therapy, that art, it is a visual form of communication where language is not required in a verbal sense. We can communicate through our images, through our process. And I think that that's something that makes it a really unique medium for healing in that way. So very short, art therapy and collage. So collage is a very common material that is introduced in art therapy. And the reason why I love it as just an artist is because no formal art skills are required. So maybe someone might come into a space or an art experience and feel, oh my gosh, I don't want to draw. I'm nervous to do that. With collage, it's really about the association with the image, and there's no drawing skills required, and so it's very accessible, very less intimidating, non-threatening. And that moves into materials. You know, collage can be many different things. It can be like not only just magazines and images or photographs. It can also, again, be like thread, mixed media materials, natural objects. So, you know, you can find things, you know, within your home that you might not think could be created into a collage, but it could. You know, you could make collages and assemble things differently that then create art. And then symbolic storytelling and meaning making. So being able to look at images and say, and have an association with them. That maybe if you were thinking, you know, from your imagination or from, you know, something non-existing yet, you know, it might you know, memories and emotions are evoked through images you might look at, whereas, you know, having to come up with an idea alone might feel intimidating or not be serving in that way. And then I write and more, because there's so much more I could talk about with art therapy and collage, but that's just the basis of, you know, collage as a therapeutic tool, why I like collage as well, why I love using collage with my clients when it's necessary for them and feels appropriate. Okay. So now talking about minimalism in collage. So being invited to do this workshop was really interesting because when Annette approached me, she said, "Can you do a workshop on your collage practice?" And to be honest, I was like, I don't know what I have to say about my collage practice. I'm a therapist that makes art, and I'm an artist that works in mental health, but I rarely talk about my own art practice. And when she said, okay, well, you can talk about, you know, she said, Julia, why don't you talk about, you know, the minimalism aspects of your art and, you know, the sewing and the integration that you do. And I said, oh, I was like, I didn't even look at it that way. And so in reflecting on the minimalism in collage, how I work is with few images. So maybe that's 3 to 4, maybe even 2. And then I integrate thread or sewing onto the image. And it's interesting being asked to do this workshop because I was like, why do I do that? And, you know, having to reflect on my own work in an artistic as well as therapeutic sense, I didn't always work with thread. It was an evolution that I'll speak about a little bit. But in terms of my definition of minimalism in collage, I'd like to say that fewer elements allow for greater intention. Um, Having fewer elements is going on the idea of less is more. What story can I tell with just this? I get to focus more on space, whether it's the negative space, the positive space, the in-between space. Look at the silence in the space and the subtle contrasts between the pieces together. And then it allows for also just for me emotional clarity through the simplicity of the images that I'm using. What do they mean? And so even this image that we have that I put here, it's just obviously the background and a body part of a foot in the water. But you can really think, what would it be like for me to be in this image right now? Who am I in this image? How does it make me feel? And I noticed I use a lot of nature backgrounds throughout all of my collage experiences, but more recently. And I think there is this calming element of just looking at nature. And when you live in a city, which I do live in cities, um, it is helpful to access that through the art if I can't physically go and be completely immersed in the forest or in a field or in a go swimming in a lake. So thinking about it in that way, and then thinking about the thread. I'll go to the next slide. So the threading the self. So I started to sew on paper. And I feel like nobody knows this about me, but I actually have a background in fashion design from when I was younger. I studied it in high school and then a little bit in my undergraduate in college. And what's interesting is unconsciously I started like doing just sewing on paper, and it's very simple. I use a tracer to trace like circle. I will thread it, connect different parts. But the thing that I found just sewing on images was a sense of presence and focus that made it feel like, you know, I have this needle and this thread. It's really delicate. I have to thread the needle. I have to then, carefully, through the paper, put the needle through, make sure that, the string isn't getting tangled. It's not just the act of cutting, pasting, and even though if you want to, when you're doing collage, you want to cut those small pieces, and that is also a mindfulness, act of mindfulness and focus. But the sewing added this element of like, oh my gosh, I could also ruin my piece right now. And I say ruin, very non-art therapist of me. Nothing's ruined, it's just evolving. But I could ruin my piece. I could sew incorrectly or rip the paper because the needle, I pushed it too hard. And so I think that moving into sewing on paper, which started 2 years ago, I think it was a transition of self. So the artist, therapist self, um, and really asking like, this relationship to myself as a therapist. I'm asking people to make art. I'm supporting others. Um, and while I support others, it's important to realize the importance of also supporting myself. And so that's where the artist side comes in. And those two identities of how the artist influences the therapist and how the therapist influences the artist. So really kind of taking that embodied care. So now I'm going to go into 3 areas of the artist therapist that and share a little bit of my earlier collage from maybe 2020. So I'm going to start with just the artist, therapist, art as self-care. So just like I mentioned, when you care for others, you're a healer or a helper. And this does not just go for therapists. If you're an empathetic person that is the person, the go-to person that people want to talk to in times of stress, your body is absorbing that, and you may want to help everyone and listen and be there, but your body will tell you if you're exhausted. And that's something that I disconnected from for a long time as a therapist, not realizing. I was just like, I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to help. I need to help. And I really, even now, need to get more routine in my art practice, because if I'm not helping myself, my capacity to effectively help others is going to be limited. And so I like to say, I note to self, the therapist is taught to have a specific relationship with another human being. So with that, again, taking care of another human being, being there for them, I also need to take care of myself as a human being. The next, art as response. I'll share a little more of what that actually means, but in art therapy, we have something that we do called response art, which is the art making specifically as a therapist in response to the work that we're doing. And so, for my clients and myself, I like to say the art acts as an extension of the self when words are not enough. And I believe that's central to art as a practice, art as therapy, art therapy, and really like how can we use visuals to respond to the things that we just really can't say, we don't know how to say, and how can the art speak for us? And then going into art as research. These images that you see here are collages that I made while I was in 2019, before the pandemic, when I had just moved to Latvia to do a work research project. And I ended up living in Latvia throughout COVID into 2 years and meeting beautiful community, beautiful people, wonderful art therapy. Like, just, I mean, I'm going there this summer. I'm back there all the time. I'm again a dual citizen, and I maybe I'll move back there one day. I'm not sure. But when I first moved there, it was really challenging. I thought I knew Latvia. I thought it was my heritage and my origin, but I was very American in the way I socialize, present, as well as talk about art therapy. And I feel like there was so much that I learned, not only about, myself and my own identity and culturally, personally, but also professionally, and then understanding how art therapy is different based on country, based on cultural history, trauma, cultural trauma. And it's constantly a learning process. But I like to say, the more I understand myself, the more I can learn from the world. And so that really sticks heavy with me as an art therapist, of saying, the more I know who I am, the more I can help others, versus going in and assuming I know what the other needs. So these images are images that I created very early when I moved to Latvia, because I was exploring the different parts of myself and feeling lonely, isolated, unsure. And slowly over time, I built that community, projects, and relationships that I have to this day that are just very meaningful. Okay. So response art as research. I promise we're almost done and we'll hop into art making soon. But just for a little more context on that, response art is artwork created by the therapist, again, for professional and personal development, allowing them to look at the therapy work in order to build empathy, practice self-care to prevent burnout, process different emotions or things that come up in session, and whatnot. And so part of my research that I started to think about or name while I was living in Latvia is the concept of placement of self. And it's something I want to write about, I need to still write about. But the idea of placement of self is looking at cultural responsibility, cultural responsiveness, but it really looks at the ability of me or the therapist or person to recognize and manage how your personal beliefs, biases, and cultural identity in relation to your therapy practice or yourself may influence your interactions with others. This is something I learned a lot in my international work, and it influenced my collage practice, is just really saying, again, the more I know myself, the more I can learn from the world, the more I understand what I was raised with, what I believe, what I've known to believe, and own that, I can then learn from others and gather other perspectives. Again, building compassion, mindfulness for others, and openness. And I like to say it must be an ongoing inquiry. This is like lifelong work. And the collages you see here are collages I actually created in like 2016. They were very early work when I was only doing things with black and white images that were nature focused as well. Okay. All right. So maybe we can just take like a quick, like maybe 5-minute break if anybody wants to just reorient themselves, get tea, get a glass of water before we move into the meditation and the art making. Does that sound good, Annete? Okay. So It's 35 on my, so maybe let's come back at 40. So anybody wants to just take a quick break, go to the bathroom, anything that you need, we'll come back and then start the experiential. So, okay. Now, if you have a piece of thread or the scrap of fabric or even a tactile object, it can even be your clothes. If you want to just touch those with your fingers, that's okay too. But just hold it. As you breathe in and out, feel the texture of the thread or the fabric. Notice the pressure of your fingertips, perhaps the weight or the weightlessness of what you're holding. And let this thread be a gentle anchor as we move through the body. So we're going to do a soft line of connection, a threading of self, a fabric of ourselves as a way to stay present. So beginning at the top of your head, I want you to just simply notice what's there. There's sensation, temperature, tension, stillness. There's no need to change anything. And let your awareness now travel down to your forehead, your eyes, and your jaw. And if you're holding any tension, just soften it a little. Allowing yourself to inhale and exhale it out. Now move on to your neck and shoulders. Can you feel the thread in your hand, like a line that releases something of what you're carrying? Let the awareness drop into your arms, elbows, and wrists. Notice your hands, the way they touch the thread or fabric. And what does it feel like to hold something delicate or something simple as you breathe? Now bring your attention to your chest. Feel the rhythm of the breath moving in and out. You don't have to do anything. Just witness the body breathing, being. And let this awareness now float down to your belly, your hips, and your seat. Notice the places of support and how the earth holds you. How you don't need to hold everything alone. Move through the legs, into the knees, the ankles and feet. Feel where you connect to the floor, your grounding. Now come back to your thread or fabric and roll it softly between your fingers. And let it remind you that you are here. Breathing and listening, being held by a quiet thread of attention. And when you're ready, just gently release the thread and wiggle your fingers. Bring your awareness back to the room. And when you're ready, open your eyes when it feels right. And let's carry this thread feeling into the art making now. Okay. So we'll move into the art making now. And I believe I'd like to take we'll give maybe 35 to 40 minutes for the art making. For some, that may seem like an eternity. For others, it's not enough time. But I will let you know when we have 10 minutes left, and then 5. I can check in if we need a little bit longer, but moving to the art experiential, what I'd like you to do is sit with the images that you've brought today, the collage materials. And I want to challenge you to select 2 to 3 images that speak to you. And just sit with them and ask what arises. Are there any memories, emotions? What story do these images tell? And it's not something I want you to overthink or spend majority of the time searching for the perfect image, but rather just sit and look and say, okay, what do I want to make here and now? Can always come back and make another artwork the same way at another time. And then I'd like you to create a collage using only those pieces. And questioning how do they connect? And how can I use the thread or material to connect them? So I invite you to sew on paper if that's comfortable for you. If you do not have a thread or needle, or a needle does not feel safe for you, that's okay. If you don't have the ability to use a needle, that's okay. You can just create an imaginary thread. You can create a representation of a thread, but just really thinking like the metaphor of the connection of the images, and again, the threading of what they mean to you. Okay? And I will put on a little bit of music. As you make art, and if you do not like the music, that's okay. You can put me on mute and check the chat for when it's time to come back. But this means I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I will put into the chat the art experiential that's written here.
Also, if you are able to, or if you want to, you can turn on the camera and put it down on your workplace so we can see how you're working with collage. Якщо у вас є можливість, якщо ви хочете, ви можете вимкнути свою камеру і поставити її на свій робочий стіл, щоб ми бачили ваш процес.
Okay, we're gonna take about like 10 more minutes for the art making. If that's okay for everyone. Okay, great. So 10 more minutes. I'll put that in the chat as well. Okay, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. Okay, take about 1 more minute to find a stopping place. And if you're not finished, that's okay. You can always come back to this later. About 1 more minute. Okay, so when everyone's ready, I invite you to come back to the space. And again, if you're not finished, that's okay. You can always come back to this. Okay. So I know many of you are shy with your cameras off, which I completely understand. It's okay. But I'm wondering if we could hold up our artwork for those that feel comfortable doing so, because if we were in a studio space together, we'd be able to see. So I'm just curious what people created today. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. Oh, we have some files shared. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Okay. All right. So I have a closing prompt for today that I want you to reflect on with writing. And so I am going to share my screen again for the closing prompt. What I'd like you to do, again, if you're still working, that's okay, but what I'd like you to do is to now just sit with your artwork for a moment and write a title, if you can think of a title for it, and a caption. So what would a caption for this artwork be? It can be one word, it can be a few sentences, but how would you caption this artwork? So a title and a caption. And we'll take about 5 minutes for that, just to think and reflect. Okay. Thank you, Annete, for writing that. I was like, for those that drop their images in the chat, do we have consent to share them or keep them or put them in a file? So if they upload, I hope you can share with me as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have an online exhibition of all the collages created during the program. So if you would like your collage to be shared in this online exhibition, you can upload it to the folder and I'll take care of it.
Beautiful. Thank
And
you.
I'll share a folder with you, Julia, as well.
Thank you. Okay. So just softly find a stopping place for your title or caption if you were able to create that. It's amazing to see all of these images come into the chat and so different, but some the same. overlapping in theme, thought. And what's interesting this is, you all have the same prompt, but it's, seeing the uniqueness of what it means to be human, interpret art, and even participate in this workshop today. You know, your artwork shows that. So, okay, so I'm going to move on to my last slide, which is, what will you take from the space? And because we have about, 30 people in the room right now, a little over, I actually want to invite, if anybody feels safe sharing and comfortable, I actually invite you to just say maybe a sentence on what do you feel like you'll take from the space today and from your art um, with you. So I'll stop sharing my screen now. And again, we're doing simultaneous translation. So if you share and it's in English, um, slow and clear. And if you are Ukrainian and share, we can't wait to hear it. Oh, you're welcome.
I would like to share, please.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Fiona. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you. I really love the meditation, the short meditation. And from that, I was thinking of feeling grounded. And my image was it's half a figure stood in mud. And then there's some growth at the top, the tree.
Wow.
So it was that sense of feeling grounded with the tree. And I got frustrated because I left my needles at work, my sewing stuff. So I had to make holes in the paper. And it was just reminding me that, that sense of finding groundedness, whatever the situation, just to try and become aware and adapt. And if you can find a thread, it can help you feel more grounded and grow. That was it.
Well, thank you for sharing your process. And also, it sounds like you worked through that frustration of not having your needle and thread available to you. Yeah, what a nice metaphor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Does anybody else want to share what they'll take from the space? Any word on their process? Yeah, go ahead, Sonia. Have some writing in the chat of what came up for them in terms of their titles. So we can actually look through that together if you'd like. Even if anybody would like to share, what is it like to look at the artworks in the chat like this? It's almost like a Zoom chat gallery.
Katerina is saying in the chat that using of the thread helped to feel the state of being even more, and things.
Wonderful, thank you. Did anyone else have a similar experience?
Yes.
Different? Yes, you did. What was this like for you, Annete?
I'm just finishing up, and I'll just unblur it. Like, yep. So I got like this. So I have like a huge pile of paper cutouts just casually, randomly laying down on my floor, and I just picked up the first image that that happened in my hand, and it's like a there's a man in the middle, and they're all like listening to what he is saying. And first I wanted to do just like a little bit, just like here the outline, but then the idea evolved and I started like going down, and then I started to like going up as well. And it's called A Guide, and the caption is the one that's giving and receiving. So it's about the whole program, this program of the workshops, and like the green color of the needle represents the colors of Kiev collage, and it's all like the thread is like the energy that is flowing through and coming all together and like surrounding this guide, who is me, I guess. And the group is listening, so it's been really a blast these past 2 months. I'm tired, honestly tired from the program, but I'm very grateful that it happened, and I'm very grateful that so many people came to every single workshop and been here through these 2 months. And I'm very grateful for all of the experts that have been hosting the workshops. So yeah, so I feel gratitude, and it's really, really nice having you as the last expert, because we have been working together not once before, and it's always really pleasant. So I thought that you closing the program will be a good thing for me, for myself personally. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Annete. And it will be interesting to see all the art you made throughout each session, and ending with the thread image that you're describing, that you described today. We have more that dropped in the chat of, let me scroll up just in case I don't miss people. Someone writing, I liked the meditation at the beginning of the creative process. Oh, thank you for sharing your thoughts, of course. Yeah, okay, so the meditation, Melanie mentioned, yes, the thread was interesting. I sew and cross stitch, but I've never incorporated it into collage. Brought an emphasis to my piece. Let's see. I'm sad these are ending. Oh, there's so no kind ones. Well, we can then, is there any last thoughts or words for the concept? Do you think that you'll take thread? You can even write in the chat if you don't want to share verbally. What will you take from the space today? What will you take? Will you continue to maybe integrate thread into your practice? Will you remember to slow down and breathe? Anything you want to drop in the chat?
Interestingly for me, the piece of thread that I used, I was looking for different threads, and I found lots of different colors that I couldn't, but they're really thin, so I couldn't use them because I didn't have my needle. And then as I was looking, I found one tiny piece of thread that was thicker that I'd used on a collage during lockdown, and I haven't incorporated it in my images since. I haven't sewn into my images, so it was such a lovely reminder. It was only about that big, the piece that I used. So that's what I'm going to take forward. Thank you for the reminder.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Fiona. It's almost like it was meant to be that you forgot your sewing supplies.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So some people shared in the chat. I've also been incorporating thread into my collages. It shows different results. Okay. I didn't think working with thread would be interesting in my practice, but you loved it. Keep in touch. Keep in touch on social media. I can put our contacts in here. I'd love to see if you continue working with thread, what that looks like for you. Okay, it was your first experience collaging and the first time with thread. Oh, first time collaging. Oh, wonderful. It's double challenging yourself. I feel like thread adds an interesting aspect. It's thoughtful and calm. Thinking through the images, the actual thread, metaphor of threads in my life and how it's connected to others. Yeah, I love that. Feel so grateful after this practice. Take peace and silent breeze. I love that. I can take time to slow down and be creative. Absolutely. Okay, and not to put the different ways to keep in touch on Instagram, both with me and my project Art Therapy Lab, as well as Kiev Collage. So you now have 1, 2, 3, 5 new accounts to follow, if you don't already. So go ahead.
Anya says, thank you for the workshop. I really enjoyed the minimalism and the work with threads.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anya. Svit wrote, I'm surprised and happy for the suggestion to use thread because my current place, I don't have paper pieces, but textile. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting too, if you were to make collage just with fabric. So taking different fabrics and then, adhesing them together in whatever form or threading them in a collage form. Wonderful. Okay, so we can find a stopping place here for today as we start to approach the end. I want to say thank you everyone for joining. I think this was one of my favorite workshops to have done in a long time, and so I can just feel the energy and the calm even as a facilitator. And I'm definitely going to take inspiration from you all out of the space to remind myself to meditate more. And yeah, so as we begin to leave, you have the contacts of how to keep in touch on social media. You can upload your artwork. I know everyone dropped it in the chat. I don't know if Annete, you'll archive or take them out of the chat, but if people wanted to upload, Annete put that link in as well, the Google Drive again. And then just as we're logging out, I asked you coming into the space, what is a word that you're bringing in? Now, what is a word you're taking out? So, oh, it's great to see you too. Yeah, just write one word you're taking out, and then you're welcome to be on your way for the rest of your evening, your day, wherever you are. I hope you can take this introspection, my own space. Oh, I love all these answers. Calm, community, peace. Purple dream. Oh, I'm curious to know more about that. Restoration, self-organizing, wonderful. Calm, gratitude. Can you post the Drive link again?
Yes. Katerina says, thank you for the organization of the workshop and inviting of the amazing speakers. I also want to thank everyone coming here and coming to all the other workshops. They are recorded, and the recordings will be available over the weekend, I think. Just the first ones are already uploaded. So I'm going to share the link to both of Ukrainian and English translations on YouTube for all the recordings. So you can follow me on Instagram on Kyiv Collage School, and you will see the link for the recordings pretty soon there.
Amazing. You're amazing, Annete. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone, be well, and until we meet again. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's a wrap.
Congratulations, Annete.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know how to submit a report, which is a whole another process of, but we should be fine.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Cheers from Jakarta. I knew it was the middle of the night. I was expecting. All right. All right. Bye, everyone. I'm going to log out. Bye. Thank you, Annete. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks to Lola and to Irina as well for being an amazing help for these past 2 months.